Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Heavy Metallurgy Album Club. I am one of your hosts, Marty. And before we get going and talk to the fellows here, I just wanted to shout out our friend Celtic Frosty, Daryl. His first his first video for his new channel launched this past week. Did a great job. I was going to put a link in the description, and I forgot to do so. I will add that later. But yeah, cheers to Frosty, and everybody go check out his channel. He's another old fart throwing his hat into the ring, and I love it. It's all good. It's good to have an extended member of the Heavy Metallurgy family doing their thing. So definitely go check out Celtic Frosty. And although you type that in, you don't. It's not hard, it's not easy to find. So you may have to figure out a different name. But anyway, cheers to Frosty. Glad I'll add the link after the show's over. But Kellen, how are you?
You know, better now that we got a Frosty channel. That was a pleasant surprise. And I think it does rank up there. Marty was kind enough to provide the link, but it goes up there with Devin's Maze of Torment album or channel name, where interesting sort of search. Mm-hmm. I am doing well. Let me see here. So I tuned in last to catch a little bit of your stream the other week, and Alan was talking about this album. This is Thin Lizzy's Johnny the Fox. Yep. I think this made his list of albums he doesn't sort of revisit as often as he should or enjoys, but doesn't pick up too often. I think that was the theme of the stream. But it reminded me to pull that one off. And then I got this past week, got wind of a new Pagan Altar record. So this is going to be...
Is there any surviving members of that band?
Yes, there is.
All right.
I did pull off Lords of Hypocrisy, but they've recruited the same vocalist who is currently in a bunch of bands, but probably most notably Sumerlands. They most likely pegged him, though, from his work in this band, Magic Circle.
Yeah.
So that's coming out on Dying Victims, I believe, in April. But yes, obviously the first record without the vocalist and father for that band. So anyway, that'll be interesting. But that's what I've been spending this past week. And once again, congrats to Frosty for sure.
Yeah. All right, Logan, what you got? How you been?
Man, been good. Won't complain. Still been a little busy. There was a Faith No More deep dive done up on the channel on Saturday. If anyone cares to check it out, we go through the real thing on to the current album and a little bit of Mike Patton's crazy side projects as well. Myself, Chris, Depeche Commode, and Necrotic Nick from Thralls of Metal. So check it out if you can. I've also been enjoying some 2025 albums. My most recent one that's kind of clicked with me has been the first from this band. I got it queued up, Marty. This is, forgive me, Ereb Altor. Yeah. Okay.
Nailed it.
Yes. Well, let me try one more time. Halsingamorker. That's the name of the album. That's what I thought.
Gotta roll those hard R's.
I've never learned how to do that. Yeah, I'm a
That's
lousy,
hard.
I'm a lousy
We don't speak
speaker.
that way, so it's hard. Yeah.
Yep. I don't have the capability. But this is a great album. I was first exposed to this band from one of you guys. I believe it was Kellen probably recommended I check out their debut. And then I saw that this was coming out, and it kind of immediately hooked me. Like, it's a good blend between like a kind of Bathory Viking metal, a bit of slower doom, and then there's some like black metal harshness and atmosphere in here. It's cool, epic stuff. So I've been enjoying this kind of over the past week and a half or so. And then other stuff. I've been continuing to dive into the Eihwaz catalog. And this is a band I've been familiar with. I actually saw this band open up for Agalloch back in 2015. Jim repping the Agalloch shirt. This is Vex with their 2016 album on Eihwaz Recordings, Sky Exile. And this is good stuff, man. Yeah. It's like one of those unclassifiable blends of black metal, post metal, proggy vibe. It kind of just does what it wants, and it's got some epic moments in there for sure. So
I can't gush enough about that record. I can't.
I'm getting there. This is the first time I've actually spent some time with it. After seeing Vex, this was 2015. I checked out some of their older stuff, but didn't realize they had one out in 2016, and then they kind of broke up after this, and I thought about revisiting them. So I would recommend people go to Eihwaz, pick up a copy of this Vex album right here, Sky Exile. And then just some other U.S. power metal. Listening to Master Control kind of put me in the mood for some Vicious Rumors. Digital
Good
Dictator,
Yep.
Badass album. The title track is phenomenal. Minute to Kill is great. Worlds and Machines. An interesting, not quite as speed metal oriented take on the U.S. power metal scene, unlike Liege Lord that we're about to talk about. So a bit more anthemic, I'd say, on this Vicious Rumors. And then finally, the Discord has been talking about Iron Maiden a lot, and I think it was partially spurned on by Mr. Frosty over here. He talked about a certain album and was trying to give Alan his due about Somewhere in Time, I believe, on his first ever YouTube video, and it inspired me to, break out some Iron Maidens. Both of these actually have to do with kind of that video you guys did on Friday, where you're talking about albums that you love but you haven't spun in a while. I mean, this one's kind of obvious. It's like the overplayed, classic, but deep cuts like 22 Acacia Avenue, Children of the Damned, and Always Hallowed Be Thy Name are worth returning to. And this one is actually my second favorite Iron Maiden album, and I don't know why I don't revisit this one that much. Maybe it just doesn't have like the big singles that you think of, when you think Iron Maiden, but I love Power Slave. The title track is one of my favorites, and you can't go wrong with Rime of the Ancient Mariner.
All right. TJ, you're up next, so I can get your thing off the screen here. I'm sick of looking at it.
Okay. Well, yeah. So
this box down here. You keep thinking there's someone waiting to come in. I keep looking down at. Anyway, go ahead.
So I've been slowly getting healthier. I don't know about healthy. Better. I was pretty sick last week.
Healthy,
This Monday I caught the norovirus, so Monday was a night of 1,000 waterfalls for me. And then now you can see plainly I'm looking for jack action, and so that's how I'm feeling. But yeah, so this week since last week I've been on a big Wasp kick. Those of you who've been playing the home game might remember that early on we picked Unholy Terror, and this is
great record.
Man, great record. So it's just absolutely killer. And I had a
where the hell did you find that? Because it's not cheap online.
I got a good deal on it on eBay, man. I paid $15 for it. Finally got a good deal on it.
Wow.
But yeah, I had a long transport last Friday up north, and so I had a nice little road trip in the evening with the company vehicle. So I was coming home. It's like, haven't listened to any Wasp in a while, and it just hit me like oh man. So I ordered OG vinyl press of the first album today, and then the album that came right after this. We were just talking about, what the hell is it? Dying for the World. I haven't checked it out yet. I'm curious to see what, if we.
Is that the one with the raven on the cover? The raven head?
Maybe, I don't know. I think it's got it's like it's got a sword or something. I don't know, but and then Marty's gonna pop a picture up for me. I stumbled across this Achilles House of the Black Geminis, and this just whipped my ass. I was blown away by this. This is, I don't know what you want to call this. This is nightmarish, black and death metal. I don't know, whatever. It is. It's just, I don't know. I was telling Marty, it's like, imagine if a band could take like Portal songs and assemble them in the right way, like unscramble them and that nightmarish wash. That sonic crush that band that I enjoy so much from that band. This record is just so powerful, I've been trying to find a copy of that today, and I can't find a cheap vinyl slab for that yet. So I'm still digging around. But so that's kind of it for me this week. And Liege Lord, here we come. It is. You're right. Portal. Can't wait for the new one if they ever have another one.
All right, Jim.
All right. Well, this is one of the bands that Kellen turned me on to here. This is Nimbifer. Man, dude, I love this, Kellen. This might be my favorite out of all the ones that you sent me that night. The bass on this is just so raw, evil, mean. I love a great bass tone. It's just punishing black metal, just old and cold. I mean, they throw they got their own character though. Like it's definitely got some little bells and whistles here and there that make it its own animal. But man, this thing is just stellar. I can't get enough of it. I've been listening to it quite a bit.
Glad you dig it. Glad you dig it.
Yeah, man. Where are they from again?
They want to say it's like they're Dutch or German.
Yeah. But yeah, I highly recommend that. If you guys just want your black metal cold, go get this. It's really straight. Little bit of UK thrash right here. Virus. It's from 1988. This, I don't know if you guys have heard this, but it sounds like a 4-track demo put to vinyl. I mean,
it's very decent. That's about it. I would call it decent.
I like it. I love it. I think it's just really ugly. And actually, my brother found this. It was still in the shrink. It had like a $8 sticker on it. But I've been enjoying it. It looks like Combat spared no expense. By that I mean they didn't spare any expense. Because like you can even hear it like how like a bad cassette just kind of goes in and out, like you can hear that like on the vinyl. But it adds to the charm. I mean, it's just really punishing, just fast and crazy black metal, thrash metal. So I've been loving this. Good stuff. Got it for a great price. And for something a little newer, got the Phrenolith in.
Pretty killer.
Yeah, this thing is awesome. It's early this year, but I could see myself showing this at the end of the year. I really liked Chimera, their last album, and I think this one, guitar tone wise, is even better. It's a thicker guitar sound on this album, which I like. But I need to give it more spins, songwriting wise, to know where it sits between this one and the last one. But really enjoying this. Glad I got it. Shout out to the crew on Discord for turning me on to Red Planet Records because I was having trouble finding it. Dark Descent sold out like right away. But anyway, good stuff. And yeah, that's my spins.
All right. Well, for me, I have had a hard time getting into music this past week, other than what we were supposed to listen to. But I did grab my Monogram box set. I'm going to listen to all their albums this weekend. Well, I didn't get that far. I got through their first one, which I'm not going to try. Not even try. Debut, and then Habits Vargar, their second album. Even started spinning their third album, but fell asleep during it. But then I fell into the old nostalgia hole.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, these two in particular. This poor guy's seen some action. Not Jack action, but action nonetheless. But yeah, it all started with putting on Dress to Kill. Just absolutely love this album. It's just, Room Service, Ladies in Waiting, Getaway. There's a lot of Rock Bottom. What a great little intro piece. It does have Rock and Roll All Night, which that's a song you can shoot into space with Aerosmith. I just never need to hear it again. She, one of their heaviest songs, Old Wicked Lester song, absolutely killer. And it got me wanting to listen to this. I was flipping through YouTube and I came across this. They did a Kiss cruise and they played a bunch of obscure shit. Basically, they didn't know they would start playing the riff to the song and the crowd would sing it. But still, they're playing some really cool old stuff they don't really ever play. So they got me all into stuff. I instantly put on Dress to Kill and had fun with that. Every once in a while, I'm super burnt out after all these years on Kiss, but when it reconnects, it's like, yeah, there it is. That's the stuff. But yeah, tonight we're here to discuss Master Control, the third and final album by Connecticut's Liege Lord, and a little bit of info on the band. Liege Lord was originally a Judas Priest cover band named Deceiver, after the Judas Priest song. Judas Priest influence can be heard in the early vocals and guitar riffs on Freedom's Rise album, which is one I've never heard. Liege Lord first signed on the French record label Black Dragon. Reaching cult status, the metal world, with the 3 releases. The band featured Joe Cameo, who would rather go on to play with thrash metal bands Overkill and Annihilator. Guitarist Anthony Truglio, that was tough, went on to play in the band Gandhi and with Paige Hamilton from Helmet, and also played in the new version of Helmet. It talks about, where the band, but the band seems to be back. They're playing Hell's Heroes. They're playing some shows. A couple of the guys have died. One of the guitar players died, and I think the bass player died. One died in 2024, and the other one died in 2023. So sucks to get old. Anyway, but tonight we're here to talk about Master Control, and we're going to get into first impressions. Jim.
Well, I heard this a while back for the first time. I think it was only like a year or so ago, but I don't know why it was under my radar, and I didn't hear it till so many years, decades after. But I loved it then, and I love it now, man. I these guys have a really cool sweet spot for me where I don't quite know how to classify them. Like trad metal, speed metal, American power. Like it's whatever tag you want to apply to it, I think will make sense. There's even a little bit of thrash in there, but yeah, man, the great Dickensian vocals,
very much,
yeah,
drove me nuts until I'm like, oh, Dickinson, there it is,
yeah. But I think as the album wears on, though, he really he comes into his own. Like as the deeper you get into the record, it gets more unique. And bass sound is great. I love the guitar tone. The drums are interesting. They're kind of like deceptively straightforward, but when you pay attention to them, there's a lot more kind of going on there. Just like every time I listen to it, there's more to give. There's like underlying melodies, the guitars, really cool shredding. There are moments where the vocals and the guitars like align melodically, subtle synths, like in the intro to the first track. There's just so much to give here, and it's one of these records that really gives you more on repeated listens, and that's always a joy. So no, man, this album is stellar. I hate to admit I don't have it on physical yet, but I will. This is absolutely going to be a purchase for me. I really like it, and I'm stoked about talking about it tonight.
Logan.
Yeah, this is one of those albums that really did fly under my radar. One of those hidden gems from the 1980s that maybe it was because this was their last effort in 88, and they, I guess haven't really done much until, I guess, the current year. I never got around to checking this out. And, I mean, first spin of this, to me, this was one of those albums that I wanted to put like a flag in the sand of this is kind of what separates like American heavy metal and U.S. power metal. Like the speed of it and like the certain focus on choruses. Hope the dog is okay. And then, just the way the songwriting kind of pans out a little bit. And I'm glad we've already kind of touched upon the vocals, because initially I did not like them. I was like, what? I'm not sure how to feel about the vocal performance. And then either on the second or third listen, I was like, oh shit, it's Bruce Dickinson. I'm now into them, and I now like the vocals. And I'm glad that wasn't just a random, pairing in my mind, but other people agree. So, this style has been one of the most that I've enjoyed talking about since joining the album club. So I'm, getting into the week of listening to this, I was kind of curious how Master Control would stack up to the other kind of heavy metal, power metal albums that we've already talked about on this Wednesday Club.
TJ.
Yeah, well, thanks for making me listen to this stool sample for a week, Kellen. No, I'm kidding. No. Nah, I got you. See, you can tell I'm already feeling better already. See, look at me over here. I'm being a complete shithead. Anyway, no, man. My first impression, so that first song, when the vocal, the riff that he's, the main verse riff on that song, I'm listening to that fucking thing. I was like, who in the hell taught that guy how to count? I mean, Marty must have wrote this riff back in '88. I was just like, it's just got this off.
If you got the feel, you don't need to count. TJ.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm just saying,
right.
If you got the secret sauce,
drums are just for show.
Yeah.
Like he just beats on those things for his own fun. But it just got this really off kilter little turnaround, and because I'm like, wait a minute, no, man, I've heard the name of this band a few times over the eons, never heard any of them, never was confronted by it anywhere out in the wild over the years. So I'm vaguely familiar of them, wasn't sure. I mean, I had some inkling of what it would be. I can say that I think if I had heard this back in '88 when it came out, I probably wouldn't have cared about it because of what it reminds me of now. But listening to it now, I'm my tastes have evolved in a lot of ways as I've gotten old and fat, and it's definitely I definitely really like this. I like this, and whatever. I like this better than Metal Church. I've never been. I didn't really care for Metal Church back in the day. I like them more so now. But I like this. I like this better for my taste. But yeah, I wasn't 100% sure what it was going to be, and then once it started in, I'm like, oh yeah, I get this. It's the kind of the speed metal thing, whatever, if you will. But yeah, looking forward to digging into it a little bit.
Hey, Tip Fam, thanks so much for the super chat. You rule, sir. Good to have you on. I'll go next. Yeah, I've always had this album. NMC promo.
Right on.
Yeah, this has always just been okay to me. And having not listened to this since I got it 100 years ago, listening to this, I wondered when I play on this Master Control why I'd never picked this up, because I'm like, was Burn to My Touch this good? So I spun this week as well, and it's not as good. It's a different singer. Although this guy has a pretty sweet, look at those tight curls and those bangs. That's impressive. It's very impressive. Frosted tips too. Probably some sweet acid wash jeans. But
I love how many times they wrote promo copy on it too. Like, just to clarify, every single band member has got to go.
Side note, WNMC is the radio station of the local college in Traverse City, and they've dabbled with metal programs, radio programs over the years, and whenever they would get anything and they would just destroy the stuff, just all over everything. But I've got at least two NMC promos in my collection.
I bought a bunch. There was a big chunk of metal stuck in the corner that when Lee took it over, she made it a Christian metal show, and all the secular stuff got stuck in the bottom corner. And I went in there one day and talked to the program director. I'm like, can I buy those? Buck a record. So anyway, listening to this record, it's sloppy. There's a weird production. There's some good shit going on, but there's a slop to it that's just kind of undercooked to me. And the guy singing is okay. But Master Control kind of surprised the crap out of me, because you can tell the band is far more focused. The songwriting is a lot more dynamics. And since it's 1988, it's still very much so a traditional metal / American power metal style, but I'm hearing elements of thrash, in particular, like some Testament vibes that seep into some of these riffs and some of these songs. And I was very impressed the fact that Master Control sounds like a more focused effort. The new singer, I'm like, God, who does this guy sound like? I like his voice. It's good. And then I realized that his higher register sounds like Bruce Dickinson's middle register. Very much so, especially in the way he ends a phrase, the way I don't know how to say it, but and then once I heard it, I couldn't unhear it, but it wasn't a problem. He's had a good voice. He's not super, what was his name? Joseph something. He's not super, he doesn't have a lot of range, but where he's at, it fits really well with what's going on with the music. It kind of makes you pay a little bit more attention to the lead work, which is exceptional on this record. And yeah, really like another thing. We'll get there. I'm not going to go there. Kellen, you picked. Obviously, you like.
I do like. So, because my story with this album is when I was getting into this world of American power metal, this is one that came up, but it kind of fell into the kind of bands like Jagdpanzer or Hellstar that were kind of differentiated from different sort of sides of the prog stuff or the more epic stuff. And, Master Control, like I first saw, this album cover and it's like, first off, it kind of looks like this massive robot. For some reason in my mind, he's on roller skates. Like underneath what is happening here.
Cyborgs on ice.
Like that's how I envisioned this, but
he's making that move.
Right? Like,
he is.
Anyway, but it's just such a cool, like the coloring contrast, like the blues here, it looks so glass. Anyway, it was one of those album covers that jumped out at me, and I kept on hearing, if you're into the more thrash oriented stuff of the American power metal scene, this is like a must pick up. You absolutely need to grab this one. And snatching it up, like we'll get into the songwriting here in a moment, but it fit that description incredibly well. I think, I'll sort of expound upon this later when we get to our closing thoughts, but it is essential listen if you're into that world of American heavy metal history. So killer record. And just for people like who may not know, after the show ends, we all kind of hang out afterwards for a little bit and chat. And there's a few records that we'll talk about, like, man, I really want to bring this one to Album Club. I've been sitting on Master Control for it's been on the list for a long time.
The list.
Yeah. And it's like, I need to bring this one. And of course, someone from the previous week will they'll introduce something and all right, got to restart from the very beginning. Thanks to so-and-so. So this is one that I felt like primed to pull and finally bring to the club. So, Marty's talked about, like, everyone kind of knows this band or knows of this band, but maybe hasn't sat down with this record or they've heard a different Liege Lord. And this just seemed like a perfect opportunity for Album Club to get a chance with it.
Right on. Do you have a thing for us?
I don't. I mean, I kind of wanted us to get into the just the songwriting and spend a little bit more time chatting about it. Logan did bring a question, though, to just trying to basically, this will tie into our songwriting side of things, but we've all kind of brought up sort of speed metal influence here. And this is 88, right? So,
yep.
Speed metal, thrash, but this is widely considered a American power metal classic. So just I was, if we can tie this into anyone's sort of impressions regarding the sort of composition and songwriting side of things, but since they cut this band and this record in particular circle all those sort of genres, I guess, how do you feel about it? And we can tie this into the, composition, songwriting. I think it's very much they're intertwined. So as questions and concepts. So if you just want to get into the songwriting, composition, and we can all sort of keep that in the back of our head when we're talking about it.
Let's do that. We'll start with Logan.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I propose that as a potential question is that's basically how I opened up my musicality and composition, was with just sitting there and pondering, where does this fall? And like on my first initial spin, that's what I was thinking. Is this power metal? Is this speed? Some of these riffs do sound like borderline thrash metal riffs. This is an interesting album that does fit in a couple different boxes. But where would I personally put it in? And am I wrong for putting it in, that box? And I guess I briefly want to touch on speed metal a little bit. That's an interesting genre to me because getting into metal, it was never something that was actually a genre for me in like the late 2000s, early 2010s. It felt like, especially talking to people who were around in the 80s for the heyday, that it was a genre that started before thrash and power metal and then kind of got absorbed in different ways and kind of retroactively removed a little bit. Like, I mean, people will still talk about it and mention it, but it doesn't have like, the same just strength of like a genre tag and like classic bands and current, big bands in the scene and stuff that like a thrash or a death or just a traditional heavy metal kind of scene would. So to me, going back to the 80s bands, I often think I'm more likely to put a speed metal band into you're thrash, Laws Rocket, and your power metal, Liege Lord, than coming up with a speed metal as a genre tag, So for me, listening to this, I immediately was thinking, oh, this is one of those like first U.S. power metal albums that kind of is starting to separate American heavy metal from, what the U.S. power metal scene was going to be. Like the speed and the momentum of it, the desire to write very hooky choruses, and some of these choruses almost sound like German, like European power metal choruses, like the one on Suspicion, for example, which is just epic, but it has like this, melody that goes through it. And yeah, I listened to Skeptic's Apocalypse by Agent Steel today for the first time. Actually, you can
bleed for the gods. If it doesn't give you arthritis from holding up the pensive evil grapefruits, then nothing will. That album and song, God.
And I'd say that could be speed metal right there. That could be fucking speed metal. And
it's all attitude. It all boils down to attitude.
That helps with my argument that this is a U.S. power metal album, because like Agent Steel, that's speed metal.
Yeah.
Liege Lord, I'm getting behind the power metal wagon on this one. Now to kind of get into the individual performances themselves, yeah, I think the vocalist is the first thing that kind of jumped out at me. And as I said, I wasn't clicking with him until the Bruce Dickinson comparison. And one of the reasons I pulled Number of the Beast is he sounds to me like some of, the tracks on Number of the Beast, especially that song Suspicion. There's some lines on that make me think of The Prisoner or 22 Acacia Avenue. As soon as you kind of get used to his vocals, though, it's good, and he becomes his own thing, and he becomes one of the standout sections. So he was one of those elements of this band that went from being like a drawback to, oh, I want to go back and hear the chorus of Suspicion, or how he does To Kill a King, for example. The other big standout, though, is the fucking guitarist, man. Holy shit.
Yeah.
That is the instrument that keeps on giving and giving. Like I was only able to spin this thing 7 times in preparation, but just when I thought I kind of immersed myself fully into the performances on this album, on the spin I did right before hopping on here, I was listening to the title track and the guitar solo on that song. I was not prepared. That was phenomenal, like incorporation of melody and a certain amount of repetition to make it memorable. So I was very impressed with the guitar writing there. And then the guitar tone itself is quite meaty. Like when they get down to an actual like down-tuned riff, it's awesome. Like on Eye of the Storm, Feel the Blade, those songs hit hard because of the guitar tone. And actually, it makes me think of a bit of Metallica's Master of Puppets, kind of, just with the chunkiness of it. It's very driven, which I like. Yeah. From there, they also like their gang vocals. That keeps popping up.
But
and I don't know if that.
It's not like it. It's not. I don't know. I don't know what to say. It isn't like offensive.
Oh man, it's
they do a good job with it.
It's just so kind of perfect.
Yeah.
I wasn't personally offended by it, but no, I think it adds in all the right spots, and I think it makes it a little bit different. And I feel like these U.S. power metal bands back in the day, or the heavy metal bands, enjoy doing that. Like Vicious Rumors have a bunch of gang vocals on.
That's a band that's hard
album.
to classify for me. That's a tough one. That's a tough classification.
Another debate right there.
Yeah. Well, I think we had it when we did it. I don't remember, but seems like that was a topic of discussion when we talked about that one. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. I will say the album I think is perfectly structured. There's a good balance of the different types of songs. We got the fast, we got the blistering fast, and we got the more riff-driven, slower tracks. At 10 songs in 42 minutes, I do think there's a little bit of fat on the bone that could be trimmed off. The
cover didn't need to be
I
there.
could take off 1 or 2 tracks, depending, on how I'm feeling. But yeah, overall, it's all praise for Liege Lord and for Master Control. So,
Jim, muted.
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 You're muted, Jim. You're
Muted. Muted. Rookie mistakes.
Muted.
Muted.
Count. Muted. Muted.
Hey, Muty.
Muted. Cast. Yeah. All right. Anyways,
It's a mutiny over there. Anyway.
Oh,
music.
Dad joke of the night. Woo!
zing.
Yeah, you can tell I don't have my own YouTube channel, and probably never will.
Yet.
Let's see. So, yeah, obviously these guys are good songwriters. There is a heavy Maiden influence in here, but they're from Connecticut. That's the land of Fate's Warning, and I think that's sort of like
an obsession. Yeah,
I think that there was probably some listening to Fates going on, because there's not prog in here at all. They're not nearly as technical, but there is some of that like early Fates metal with like more like musical proficiency going on here. I mean, the drummer is really, really great. The guitar players are just absolute bonkers shredding, but also play with like a lot of feel, a lot of great phrasing, memorable lines. It isn't just like shred for shred's sake. I really like how they took the time out in a lot of the choruses and bridges and things like that, where they'll play under the vocals and sort of accentuate what he's doing. Along the same, they'll either do the same melody line or they'll do like a counterpoint, and it really kind of, raises up, the anthemic quality of their, like sing-alongs type choruses and stuff. Like on Suspicion, I think, for instance, is a good example. It's a really hooky chorus there. And leading up to that chorus, the song is very Maiden-esque. It's probably the most Maiden-esque, but that chorus is one of the best on the album. And what makes it strong is, not only the really cool, interesting vocal on the chorus, but what the guitars are doing behind it, I think makes it really powerful. I really enjoy the fact that these guys are hard to classify. The first song, Fear Itself, has like a bit of a thrashy kind of a vibe going on. But by and large, I think this is more like a trad/speed metal type of album. It's faster, it's up tempo, but there's enough of like straight heavy metal / Maidenisms going on here to kind of like rein it in some, where I wouldn't call it like an easy listening. It's very energetic, but it isn't like overpowering. It's the kind of metal for me that I can work to and drive to without getting a speeding ticket. It just puts a smile on my face. So there's something to be said for that. And obviously, great musicians, can often attract other great musicians. The bass lines are really cool, interesting here. Obviously, this guy lets do a lot of Steve Harris. He's got that kind of triplet attack on his bass. It's always prevalent. You can hear it.
A plunky, kind of a finger pluck sound. It's
yes,
cool.
Exactly, Marty. That's a great way to put it. And the drums, like, if you're not really paying attention, they can kind of fly by you. You can say, standard heavy metal drum, but that's not the case. If you listen, he throws like a little bit of jazz in there, and there's some songs where he's just like pounding really fast, like in a pure thrash kind of way. He does rolling double bass, great example of that is on Feel the Blade. There's, great kind of a crawling double bass feel over the verses and stuff. So my point is, you kind of see here, like there is so much going on, but it doesn't feel like a cavalcade of like different riffs and sounds coming at you. It's not like that. It's somehow they're able to like keep it cohesive to make each song stand out on its own and be memorable as a song, and not just like a collection of different styles and collection of different riffs. So, chalk that up to these guys are just really great players, and they love all kinds of metal, and they were able to kind of coalesce that into something that was kind of hard to pin down. And maybe it came a little late in '88. I mean, definitely, death metal was rearing its ugly head. Thrash was kind of like at its nadir, if you will. But this kind of metal, wasn't really like getting a lot of attention. I remember as a thrash kid, and I'm with you, TJ. I probably, the reason why I didn't hear this when I was younger is I wouldn't have paid attention to it. Like I was looking for the heaviest stuff. You know what I mean? Death's Leprosy came out, like that's what I was listening, and so, but it is with time, it's really fun to go back and to hear these gems that you missed out, because now my love of metal spans the entire, 55 years since its creation. And this kind of stuff, just the way this band especially can bring all of those great classic metal tropes together and make really strong songs that you can kind of sing along with or pump your fist to, and not feel like it's just like, run of the mill anyway. Like that takes some effort or skill or both, but because they could have easily been swallowed up, with any other, number of nameless bands who came before them, that were heavy metal or speed metal. But these guys, it stands out. It just feels strong from start to finish. And it's a joy to listen to. So musicality and composition, in this genre, these guys really, really nailed it, I think.
DJ.
Yeah, so this whole thing about calling these bands, like calling metal church, like power metal, American power metal, it's like, what was it? I don't know, Mr. Neanderthal in the chat.
It was Alex.
Yeah, I agree with him. I can't use that term to apply to these bands. It just doesn't interchange in my mind. And I understand what you guys are going for, and I do get what you mean, but it just, for me, it doesn't work. It's, we had thrash bands, we had speed metal bands, and we had traditional heavy metal bands, and to me, these guys are more in the speed metal vein, but then they do dabble, but songwriting wise, I mean, these songs are really well put together. I mean, they're definitely, they've got a formula that they came across that works really well. I was checking it as I'm listening to it. The solo breaks come almost dead in the middle of every song. Every song kind of has its own special intro that may or may not rehash in the song or be part of the chorus or not. Towards the end of the record, they are like sticking their toe into a little bit of prog stuff, and I didn't realize these guys were kind of from that Fate's Warning theory, and that may very well be part of that. They're trying to kind of keep it a little more interesting. Well, I mean, and it's cool.
Look at the last, on Metal Blade, you got to have the airbrushed Fate's Warning cover
for sure. I mean,
everything that came through that.
Yeah, you're looking at, and
it's but somewhere underneath all the NMC marks
somewhere. Yeah. I hate that crap.
Yeah, I know, it was always so annoying.
Sucks.
But
anyway.
But it doesn't get, they don't get lost in it. It makes it interesting, and then the song moves into the, into the vocal parts and stuff, and it's really well put together. And like Jim says that, I like, it's like you can kick back and listen to this, and there are some bangers on here. There's some, there's some moments where you're kind of like, you're getting into that vibe, with it, but it's still it's just the songs are listenable and they're really well put together. And I was and, and like the guitar work on here is just outstanding. And Marty and I were talking. I saw somebody, some kid on YouTube a few weeks back. He posted a short about we need to bring back more '80s solos, and he starts ripping this really really tasty '80s style kind of George Lynch lead, And it's like listening to this shit. It's like, man, it's so true because you just don't really hear it as much anymore. It's angular or atonal or it's just something different or not at all, And it's just kind of refreshing to hear this.
Solo a good solo is a song within a song
for sure.
It's the way it should be. Instead of
it should add flavor and flair, and it should be something that really adds to the song and not detracts or distracts. It's like why one of my favorite players has always been Tony Iommi because it's like he's never been some mad genius, but his guitar solos are endlessly tasty, no matter what track he's playing.
Ace Frehley,
yeah.
Is there the early Ace Frehley stuff?
Absolutely,
it's
100%.
simple. It's super simple, but so
100%.
It's a song within a song.
100%.
Andy LaRocque from King Diamond. I mean,
you can go on and on, but yeah, and and another thing that I really enjoyed about the songwriting on this and stuff is like I didn't feel like they're more, a lot of their contemporaries of the time were really pushing for the brass ring with their songwriting and accessibility. And these songs they may have been trying to do, but it didn't feel like that to me. Like they weren't trying to pull punches with the riff writing. They were trying to keep things really heavy and cool, but they weren't trying to make the songs a little bit more catchy for the kids, or whatever. Although there's catchy parts and shit like that.
Well, the choruses are catchy a lot.
Yeah, but it's still I don't feel like I just didn't feel like they were driving into that arena so much, where a lot of the other bands at the time that everybody's chasing Metallica's coattails, and it's just I didn't get that from this because these songs, while they're easy to chew on, that there's still a complexity to them that makes them a little bit more than some of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, and for me, I gotta, for this, when I really picked up on the Dickinson and start listening to the guitar work and stuff, it's like a speed metal Iron Maiden is kind of what I got out of this, and there's a lot of that in there, and it's really cool actually for me. I just, these guys just did this record is just really well put together, and these guys are really talented. The drummer, he's not some madman drummer, but he's so spot on. He's such a great timekeeper. Everything's got flavor. I don't really know what else to say. I think they did a really good job. I know towards the end, like I said, they were dabbling with some proggy stuff, but it's just mostly like in the intro stuff, and the song starts out and it gets a little different, and then they dive right back into the kind of more thrashy, speedy stuff, the heavier parts and whatever, and it stays pretty consistent. But yeah, and then there was like what's the Feel the Blade? There was there's a bit of a that song has a bit of a like a hair band skank to it.
Dude,
like
I wrote down sleazy riffs on that. That's the song I wrote. There's some sleazy riffs going on here, and
that song. They definitely kind of touched on that a little bit, But it was still pretty cool.
Logan, see how good it is when we all listen to the same record? How good it can be.
I have more fun every time we do it.
But yeah, I mean, and it's just, the street gang stuff, that's great, and it's tasteful. It's not, because it can get overwhelming and stupid, and so they throw it in there when it's cool, adds great emphasis. It's just really well done. But yeah, I mean, it's musicality, composition of this record is spot on. Great players, great slab for sure.
Kellen, do you want to go last or you want to go now?
I mean, I can jump in now if you want me to. Yeah, to kind of go to the original sort of tie-in question. this isn't one of those examples for me of how quickly metal was moving artistically or creatively from 83, let's say, to 88. In that time frame, how much changes and what sort of the precipice of what is the most aggressive thing out there moves. So to go from like everyone's referencing Maiden, but if you want to choose, like, I know Killing Is My Business was brought up earlier. If you want to say Kill 'Em All, like 83, 84, that part of thrash that's very new also shares a certain sensibility with speed metal. But by 88, like the Violent Restitution sounds nothing like those records. And speed metal is much more extreme. Death metal has arrived. The darkened elements of thrash metal, they're out there. It just feels like the gang vocals here for me,
they're melodic,
Yeah.
but it's like it's a tie-in. Obviously, with the vocalist moving to Overkill later on and being a Northeast band, there's a lot of reference towards like it doesn't share what I associate with the East Coast sort of punk aspect of their thrash. I don't hear that. It's got too much sort of melodic and new wave of British heavy metal elements built into it that push it away from being East Coast thrash. Yet this is within their catalog aggressive enough so I can hear a thrash influence, at least from that scene. So it's an interesting combination of, avoiding necessarily like the geographic influences of the time, but at the same, on this record, though, they're pulling from, I guess, West Coast thrash, even though they're an East Coast band. It's an interesting sort of confluence there. What I wrote down here for songwriting, for me, it's, with the moment on Broken Wasteland, that rip it up, tear it down, rip it up, it is Priest to me. That is 100% like a pull from a Priest record. Every time I hear that, like I don't hear necessarily Maiden, but it's like that side of new wave of British heavy metal that's all over that track. I agree. So the soloing that's been brought up, the title track solo, it's the trade-offs. It's not that they're just great solos. It's just like this conversation that's happening between two guitarists that I miss. And they give them enough breathing room. It's one thing to go through a record and to hear a solo and be like, that's a killer solo. It's another thing every single time I listen to this album, I like repeat, just, turn the CD back, 2 minutes and listen to the solo again.
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of a solo, right? Like, it's not just, oh, that's a great solo or recognizable. It's like a high point on the record, and I forget how much I enjoy it. So I probably listen to it before I finish Master Control, like the song itself. I probably listened to the solo 3 times through. It's that kind of solo work, and it's all throughout this record, but that's my favorite, example on this album. Other sort of key points, I do think there's enough, as much as this is Jim's not getting a ticket run at the speed limit sort of cruising record style of a album. It's still, I don't get there's enough creative songwriting or enough individual songs that stand out where it doesn't become too samey, right? Like I kind of feel, in the same way you could breeze through when we did the Omens Warning of Danger, right? Where it's a easy record to listen to. It breezes through in 30 minutes. You can just cruise to it, but there's enough diversity on it. I think while this is a little bit longer, I think it shares that same sort of personality where there's enough diversity where you can find some individual songs that stand out and sort of build around it. I like the cover.
I think it's great.
I like it too. Yeah,
I think it's awesome.
And if this is in my full send in terms of the vocal performance, I mean, I can only imagine what it'd be like we're going to cover a Dio song, right, in 1988, and gauging by this person, their individual talent. That's a major ask, I think, for any vocalist, to try and get in there and do cover a song by potentially the most iconic vocalist in the history of the genre. I don't think that's too controversial, and they do a great cover. It's sitting right front and center, track number 4 here.
Yeah.
When I hear like the opening of Kill the King, the guitar lead that begins that track, I'm like, oh man, go back to that for like 5 more bars. Like I don't want it to end. There's like dramatic build there. So I think they do a great job. And his vocal, like Dio never had the greatest like range relative to some of the other vocalists that we can name in the history of the genre. But you could never doubt like the level of control, personality, and confidence he sang with. And like, I think that's the standout character for this vocalist as well. To your point, like he works well for this American heavy metal thing where it's still like enough blue collar, right? To match the band. But I do think he, like in the latter portion of the song, you can hear he's got a little bit of a vibrato happening at times. He never sings outside of his range. But there's just tons of like performance talent here. And I think it's in terms of like the vocal contribution to this record, another standout feature for me as well.
For me, hearing, Jim called this, it has a speed metal feel, I don't know. I listen to this and I don't get that. The way I interpret speed metal is it's a lot more aggressive. There's fast moments on here. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying everybody interprets. It's like, what's thrash? What's speed metal? I mean, everybody's going to put different things in the different boxes. But, Agent Steel, the same year Holy Terror's Mind Wars came out as Master Control. You put those two on the same shelf, I'm always going to reach for Holy Terror because that, to me, is a good 80% speed metal. This the intensity, the feel, the attack. Exciter, Long Live the Loud. Albums like that. They just have even the first Megadeth, Killing Is My Business, has a lot of speed metal to it. Where Metallica went more new wave of British heavy metal thrash, kind of like what Slayer did, but then they got faster as they went. Rain and Blood has elements of speed metal to it. This, to me, Kellen kind of nailed it. There's a West Coast, you got bands like Nuclear Assault, Overkill. They have more of a hardcore feel for the East Coast. Just a different vibe than the West. I hear little elements of Testament in here, which is fine. And again, we don't need to. It's fun to put labels on stuff because everybody gets their undies up in their butt, which is fine. But it's, I don't know. This is just a really well done metal record with thrash leanings. And for me, the songwriting and composition, there is nothing here that really is bad. Nothing stands out as, ooh, misstep. TJ said towards the end, they started to get a little bit, I don't want to say redundant, but there is a formula that the band establishes early on. But all the elements within the formula are so well executed. It doesn't get tiring or
100%.
It doesn't wear you down. And towards the two last tracks, there's some prog elements that come into it, but even though they're working within a formula, they play a lot within this formula. There's one thing they work really well with is dynamics. This band isn't balls to the wall from start to finish. There's, like TJ said, they would repeat, like they would call back on these more quiet intros that would work their way back into the middle of the song. There's just, the songs each go in an interesting direction. Then you throw a chorus in there that has melodic gang yells. It's just, there isn't just shouting. They're actually, they're actually, they're following a melodic refrain or whatever, while Joseph is underneath doing some cool stuff with his voice. It's always, they sell each song very well, and for the songwriting, the composition, it's spot on. And then those solos, I mean, they are like, TJ's right. They come in about the 2-minute mark of every song. There's like, oh, now it's the solo time. That's just when it hits about every song. But it's just so tasteful. They're just tasty solos. They're not overly wanky. There's just a nice melodious strand throughout the solo, song within a song. And that's, the way they play back and forth, the two guitar players, there's a little interaction. It's really cool. And the way the whole album is composed, I mean, listening to this record, again, this record doesn't suck. It's a good record. It seems a bit more sloppy, a little bit less focused. And the songs they struggle to get from one end to the other. Whereas Master Control, they've kind of figured out what they are and where they're going. And I think it just shows it really well. But the whole speed metal thing, yeah, I mean, I love it. And it's just one, everybody's going to have a different opinion on what it is. And it all is how the songs hit and the intention behind them. There's too much Maiden and Testament on here for me to say, to come out, to say, yeah, the speed, even their faster songs aren't that fast. You know, they toy with thrash, but they never fully commit, you know, which
especially
is fine.
by 88. Especially
by 88.
Right.
And that's just it. You know, you're looking at 1988. These guys are right on the precipice of kind of being outdated. Outdated. I mean, you know, you put, you know, in the same kind of realm, Holy Terror's Mind Wars, and then you got death metal stuff coming out. Writing's on the wall. And if you don't start to bend with the times a little bit, you're going to get lost pretty quick. And obviously these guys, they just kind of faded away. But anyway, yeah, long rambling. Production. Let's talk about production. Logan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, this is one of those.
Go ahead. We'll talk about it. I'll talk about it. I want to talk. I'm going to go back because I want to talk about it now. Sorry. The cover. Man, I love Dio led Rainbow. I love it. And they killed it on the cover. They did a great job on it. What bothers me is the placement. They put it like second to the last on side one. That should have been either at the end of the album. This is such a stupid nitpick. It really is. But I'm really getting into the Liege Lord feel and flavor. And then all of a sudden they put a song I'm very familiar with in it. And it kind of takes me out of what's going on. You know, I would have rather it either not been on the album or at the end of the album. Then I would have been. But they killed it. I mean, they totally killed it. Although, I love it. Dio led Rainbow is, oh my God, it's so good. Anyway. Sorry, I just wanted to talk about that real quick. There you go.
All right. So about the cover. Wait, no.
Wait a minute. Wait. No.
Yeah, no. I mean, honestly, listening to Jim earlier actually made me question because I'm typically listening to albums, you know, that I don't own on these headphones, and listening to you talk about the bass made me wonder if maybe these headphones kind of suck because I didn't hear any bass performance in my listening experience, you know.
Yeah, listen to Suspicion especially. You'll hear it. It's definitely.
I'll have to dig a little bit deeper because that was one of my major nitpicks with the production. Is like, where's the bass? I can't hear the bass. But maybe
the bass?
Yeah, maybe it's not you know, Master Control's fault. It's mine. But other than that, I mean, it's an 80s production. It's you really can't complain. It puts the vocals very much up front and center, which I think was my initial complaint. And then I warmed up to them, and you know, as I said, as soon as I clicked with them, it doesn't take away like it did originally. And the guitars, which are the other like spotlight hero of this record, are very much front and center too. And
was Jason Newsted?
Well, see, I'm right. There we go. I might be right. We'll see. But yeah, the vocals, they are a bit abrasive, I feel like, in the mix sometimes, and could maybe be brought down a little bit. But for the most part, it's smooth sailing. Like everything has space to breathe. But the guitars and the vocals are, you know, definitely the spotlight. The guitars especially. And I do think they do a good job of highlighting when the guitar solo is going on and when some of these melodies are going on too. Like they'll really bring some epic, like power metal level melodies in some of these songs, and they do sound very warm in the mix, which is a little bit distinct in the production, which I always enjoyed while listening to this. So yeah, not too much to nitpick or complain about with the production. It's phenomenal. 1988 production. I don't feel like you could probably ask for more from this decade.
All right, Jim.
Yeah, man, I think when you've got a singer that's this good, I think it's okay for him to be up in the mix.
Yeah.
You know, I like for him to be out front because he's got great voice. That sort of mid range that he inhabits is like, for me, pleasing to the ear. And when he does his like higher register stuff, it isn't that kind of shrieky kind of a scream. Like, it still feels like controlled and contained. He doesn't feel like he's pushing outside of his, register of his capabilities. He's staying in that. He's pushing the boundaries of his capabilities, but it still sounds contained and musical. So I'm all for it there. I love the guitar tone here. It's great mid range. It's not like, it's not like super chuggy or anything like that. It doesn't need to be, nor should it be for this kind of metal. Like, it just sounds like a great, like perfectly balanced, gain distortion on the guitars here for this kind of music, and that, I think helps lend it towards its uniqueness and keeps it out of the thrash realm. And yeah, Marty, on the speed metal thing, like, I say there's speed metal leaning towards heavy metal. Like, I wouldn't call them speed metal per se. I mean, there's too much trad heavy metal going on here, especially with Maiden and stuff like that. And obviously a little bit of rainbow in there too.
Literally.
Yeah. But yeah, I really like the snare on this. The snare is loud too, just like the lead vocal. It's always pounding there and present. But it doesn't sound like, banging on trash cans. It has a great kind of a boxy hit to it that, I personally enjoy. There's sometimes that really clangy kind of snare sound, and like brutal death metal bands, like a lot of brutal death metal bands use like, just, it's too much for me. I can't do it.
Don't like the ping.
Yeah, I don't like the ping. I mean, when like in doses, it's okay, but when all I hear is tang, 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 I just think Saint Anger and how much I hate that record, and it gives me PTSD. But yeah, none of that here. A very clean snare attack. The bass drum sound, pretty natural. They're not clippy, clicky sounding. So just really great drum sound all the way around. And now I will say, Logan, the bass isn't super loud in the mix here. It is lower, but it is present. And I think it's because, as Marty alluded to, he's got that plucking style with his fingers, and he doesn't turn up a lot of high end frequencies in his sound. It kind of rides that middle zone. And when you have a middle zone in your bass tone, your guitars are already mid-rangey, and like a non-scooped kind of guitar sound, it could disappear when you're all kind of, fighting for the same frequencies and all that. But, I do hear it, and what I hear is like really cool. He does the job very well, filling up, the area between, the guitars and the drums themselves. So, but yeah, man, I just have zero issue with the production. It's one of my favorite things about the record too, because it's a sweet spot for me. It's pleasing to the ear all the way around. And one of the interesting things about their choices on the production is the way they employ synths on here is the synths aren't really loud and bombastic. They don't like take up the room. When you hear the synths employed here, which song is the one I was Oh, actually, well, a good example really is the opening track on Fear itself. The keys they're majestic on the intro, but they still don't sound like they're overpowering the guitars and everything. Even on the last song, what's that, Fallout? It just works with the song. It doesn't overpower the song. It's there. It complements it. It makes it better, and it doesn't diminish like the metal that's going on. So again, great choices in the studio, getting, these levels just right, having all the instruments work together. So yeah, man, with this kind of sound in 88, they may have been late to the game, but I will say with this kind of sound in 88, they were at the top of their game.
Right on. TJ.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Jim on this. I love this kind of really well executed late 80s production on this. Made me chuckle a little bit in the moments when the guitar tones, when they do some spots where the guitar comes out by itself and it's just got this real buzzing solid state guitar amp sound, and it's not obnoxious or annoying. And the bass is there, Logan. I'm not sure what you're listening to. It definitely carries the bottom.
That's anybody's guess, really.
Yeah, well, at this point,
it could be any album, truthfully.
Could be anything. Could be
Lord Antonio.
Yeah, Captain Antonio.
Oh, Captain Antonio.
Yeah,
Lord.
Remember. Yeah, and remember, it's not the captain; it's just Captain. But anyway, there is definitely bass on this. I remember it was one of the first things I really kind of noticed, and I'm thinking, and of course, when the bass stands out in a good way, I'm thinking, man, Jim's going to be happy, but yeah, I mean, it's just, the drums are big, but not boxy. There's the reverb on this it's all over the place,
yeah,
but it's done.
great.
But it's
in control.
It gives it life. It gives it life and breath. It doesn't just wash over everything. There's really not much, in the vocals. His vocal delivery, he's so good at it. He's got his range. He's rangy. He knows where he's at. He knows where he can live, and he doesn't mess with it. And he's just got it all nailed down. And I don't feel the vocals. They are out front, but they don't feel like it in this mix because everything goes so well with everything that's going on in the song. It's so well placed. And like Jim said, I think it's one of the things that really stood out for me with this release is I think the production is great. So yeah, for sure, 100%.
Colin.
So the one part I'll add to this, and the first thing I noticed, I think the bass tone on this is exceptional. Mm-hmm. And to me, it sounds very much like when you'd hear if someone's playing incredibly fast, it's difficult to get sort of a pluck through all that distortion when someone's playing finger style. But there's enough sort of muscle in that bass tone where like I heard it plenty through this mix. And I actually think most of the bottom end comes from my criticism on the drum production is the kick relative to the bass guitar. I think all the thunder and power is in the bass guitar on this mix, and there's not as much sort of bottom end happening with the kick drum. So that's my criticism. It sounds natural. It just isn't voiced as powerfully, in my opinion. But the bass work here is, I think it's interesting. Like you think of often kick drums within a metal context is used to provide a sense of like momentum or propulsion dynamically. I think when this bassist leans into it and moves along, that's where all the propulsion and weight comes from on this album. I think it's actually the bass playing that ends a lot of that sort of momentum. So I love the bass tone here. I do agree with TJ's sort of analysis of lead playing guitar tone relative to rhythm guitar work. There's a great contrast where it's like the rhythm work is to me a little bit rough around the edges, which works really well for like an 80s, but the lead stuff is really sort of clean and fast and pristine. There's a lot of like fast sort of energy to the lead work here in terms of the production, like cleanliness. So I think I love that sort of, in and out of different kind of guitar tones with the rhythm versus lead work. And outside of that, I really don't, to your point, like if you want a really sleazy reverb drench, like the debut Wasp record is my like quintessential sleazy reverb 80s record. Like that to me is, if you want that, this doesn't have that kind of reverb on it. It sounds comfortably 80s, but it's still sort of well organized, and I don't have any problem in terms of like placement or anything like that with the rest of the instruments. So I just think the probably my biggest thing is I loved how powerful the good bass guitar is voiced here, with being able to sort of pierce through with someone who to my ears is not playing with a pick.
He's not. And there's even visual evidence on this album that he's not See,
There you
right
go.
there. Yeah. But yeah, for me, production. This is. I was listening first couple times through. I'm like, God, does the production get really any better for an '80s kid, metal '80s kid? It really is in the sweet spot. There's a couple times where the things get a bit mushy, like on Suspicion. There's a really cool riffing during the chorus. It kind of changes the feel of the song, but it's kind of the reverb makes it a bit mushy, but still it's the presence of it. It changes the feel of the song. So it does what it's supposed to do. And that again is very nitpicky. The reverb sometimes can get into the details a bit, but it really isn't a thing. And the bass cuts through when it needs to. And I think that's a lot of it is the skill and know-how of the player knows when pluck them a little bit harder, step up a little bit more in the presence to the song. It isn't there all the time because I'm typically listening to the song where it's going, but when it cuts, it's like, yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be. And that sound, that plunky, clean, fat bottom sound is just a good bass, good clean bass tone. The way he plays has a tiny bit of grit to it. It's good, and vocals sit good. I like the mix. I like it. Just sounds the way it's supposed to sound, and that's cool. That's what's cool about it for me. Favorite, least favorite songs. Did everybody go? Yes. Logan.
Yeah, this is
I'll be right back.
one of those albums where it just does a great job of balancing itself. I mean, there's the like kind of two extremes. There's the slower, more riff-driven tracks, and then there's the, go for your throat, almost speed metal style songs, and then there's a little bit of in between, just in case. And as far as like my favorites, I end up falling on the two extremes. Like, I think my absolute favorites might be the slower, more like riff-heavy tracks that just kind of get in and try to bulldoze you with this riff. Second track, Eye of the Storm, I think is great. I love the chorus, that builds from that riff, and yeah, sounds great. And then maybe my favorite track on the album, I'm not sure. It's up there. Feel the Blade. That's just a fucking badass song. That riff, the stop start. I didn't hear the sleazy 80s like glam metal swing, but I guess it kind of is there. There's a certain level of showmanship to how they're like stopping the riff, bringing it back in. He's doing like the little vocal inflection, like the and then he goes, comes right back in. And of course it's a song about suicide from a very 80s perspective, which I don't know, it's definitely a certain type of track from that decade. But that actually, we're going back to the whole like let's go speeding. That would be the song I would want to speed to from this album. I think is actually that, just the one hand up. with
was there
riff.
ever a metal record in the '80s that didn't have a song about suicide on it? It would be kind of like a weird.
But it was always from the perspective of like, drop the blade, you coward.
Yeah, right.
Which is what this one is. I love Feel the Blade. Absolutely phenomenal track, and what they do with the riff and like the guitar solos that come off of that riff, phenomenal. For the faster songs, I had to write in the title track, Master Control, for this one during the stream, just because it's got what a great chorus. Like, phenomenal chorus with the gang vocals melodically adding to it. Like, that's
in the interplay between the gang vocals and Joseph. He kind of
they go back and forth, and then you get to the guitar solo, which, I mean, Kellen, you already described it perfectly. I don't need to dive into that again, but I'm telling you, I just had the listen before hopping on the stream where I was paying full attention to that guitar solo, and it blew me away. I was impressed. So yeah, and then the other faster track, Suspicion, gets my vote. That sounds the most power metal-esque, sounds the most like Iron Maiden style. I like the chorus. I like the vocal arrangements that he's doing. great song. And then I love the closer too. That's gonna be my final like favorite track. The closer, Fallout. It's a great balance of everything they were doing before, but then there's a little bit of extra, just maybe progressive style songwriting or melodicism that's in
They
there.
had some
Like they do
quiet
these
moments that was
vocal,
kind of surprised.
it's a quiet opening, and then there's like these vocal harmonies and stuff that they didn't do before. It's not gang shout vocals; it's an actual like harmonization that's going on.
Yep.
And it sounds more emotive, you know, like they're trying to tug at your heartstrings, whereas the other ones are going for, you know, your more baseline reptilian emotions. Fallout sounds like they're reaching a bit deeper, which I appreciate. No true least favorites tracks. There are no bad songs here, but as I mentioned in the musicality section, I do think this album could shed a song maybe. Two tracks do share the same feel in the album. And believe it or not, it's not the cover. I actually would keep the cover. I enjoy it. It's faster. It's a unique take on the song to me, and I just like the guitar work in it. In addition to his, you know, his take on Dio's vocals. The tracks that I think I would maybe lose one, Soldiers of Fortune and Rapture. Neither of those songs never really stuck out to me in a unique way, and they kind of both occupy the same more straightforward and fast pace on the album, and they don't offer anything that other songs, you know, offer. So, but that's just a nitpick to get the running time to like under the 40-minute mark. But other than that, all positives for the track listing.
All right, TJ.
Yeah, I don't. I have some nitpicks as far as least. I really like all these tracks. You know, even the cover. Because initially I'm listening. I'm like, why do I know that song? You know, it's like, oh shit. After about the third listen, I'm like, oh god, oh my god, yeah. But and then so I don't know. I mean, you know, the gang vocals is A Fear Itself, the Street Gang Boxer Killer, Broken Wasteland. They brought about 2-minute mark. I love the middle section there. It's kind of a more of a dark angular riff that they're using in the bridge part. You know, with the Feel the Blade, it's got that skank. It's just got that big hair metal skank feel to it. Master Control, Street Gang vocals, a great banger. I like, you know, I have the catchy chorus in Suspicion. It's cool. You know, and my nitpicks is probably, you know, and Logo, I think Logo was kind of, you know, Fallout. It gets a little glorious and uplifting kind of, and it just swings in a way that's a little different from a lot of the other tracks. I like the song, and it's not like a sore thumb sticking out, but it's just like you notice it. And then Eye of the Storm, the chorus gets I get a little, you know, in the eye of the, it's just kind of, you know, it's getting a little meh. But other than that, the record is entirely listenable front to back. I do enjoy all the tracks. Just little things, you know. Yeah.
Jim.
You know, a song here we haven't really talked about much. Broken Wasteland is one of my favorites here. It you know, it's a down pick riff, starts it off, then it goes into some alternate picking to this really cool scale based riff on the verses. Like, you know, it's just really unique, has a lot of movement to it, and that is it ascends on the bridge of each bridge, so it's really cool. It always stood out to me every time I'd come back around to that song, listening to it this week, and really great melodicism in both guitar and the vocal. About 3 minutes in, it kind of comes in, and there's a kind of a power moment there. Another thing about Feel the Blade is if you go back and listen to like the end of that song, at the very end of it, it has a riff that's very similar, and this is 2 years before Rest in Peace, similar to Eye of the Tornado. It's a like, go back and listen to that, and I was like, oh, dude, all right, maybe Dave was listening to some Liege Lord, man.
Right on.
All right. But yeah, good stuff there. Soldiers of Fortune. That's the one I had the really interesting kind of drum beats on the verse and the chorus. That was a standout to me. Obviously, Master Control, the title track's awesome. I mean, when you've got the line in there, I mean, Pulse of Pure Metal, Infinity. I'm like, oh yeah, come on. There you go, man. I love that. You guys know I love it when you call out metal in your lyrics. So definitely a favorite thing of mine. And man, I really think it closes strong with Fallout, man. The intro starts out quietly, and at first you're kind of like, oh man, they're not gonna like close with a slow, quiet song. That would just be popping the balloon there. But instead it picks up and has a really cool kind of a triplet feel that, again, kind of like a Megadeth type of riff, early Megadeth, where he does that. It's like a triplet, but thrashier, and that kind of faster tempo that continues like behind the solo, like gives it a lot of energy, and so you end up feeling really strong with the way the album closes. So, yeah, man, lots of good choices all the way around. I'm always a little like, kind of iffy on, covers being positioned earlier on an album, but man, I think the cover's so strong, it just doesn't really bother me here. I'm okay with it. It's got a lot of energy, and he kind of gets this kind of weird throat gurgling thing at the end of it vocally, which is kind of strange, but makes it just sounds so earnest, when he's doing it. And, obviously he's, really loves this song because you can feel the passion coming through. So it doesn't bug me.
How can you not love that song? God, it's so good.
Yeah. This is one of those records, and, it happens, sometimes I'd say probably for me, a good 50% of the time, we pick a lot of good stuff here. Where I do like every song on this album generally, obviously to different degrees between the tracks, but they each have their own, voice here. Like Kellen said earlier, this isn't a samey album. And for me, I disagree with Kellen. It doesn't feel too long to me. Like I when I get to the end of it, like I'm like, oh, I'm at the end of it already. Like, and I think it's because, the songs don't linger too long. What they say what they're going to say, and they get out and they're done, and then the next one comes. Because it's 10 tracks, but 10 tracks of like, even though there's some like 5-minuters or whatever, like it never, for me, they never feel too long. There's so much going on. There's so much, but not in like a noodly kind of way going on where it just like bums your ears out with like show offery. I mean, that isn't what's happening here. There's a lot going on with like great song structure, memorable hooks, great solos that keep you coming back for more. So yeah, but yeah, those are the ones for me. Broken Wasteland, Fallout, Feel the Blade, and of course, Master Control.
All right, Kellen.
Okay, so Master Control, Broken Wasteland, and Fallout. So I just want to, are we all in agreement on Fallout as a great closer?
Yeah.
I want to pull the audience.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll get, we have a dissenting voice over in apparently I'm looking for Jack Action over here. But you're okay. It's okay. See, I thought that was going to be a full send support. The closer works incredibly well there.
I don't dislike it. I don't know. Like I said, it just that the nature of the song just kind of shifted a little bit in a way that threw me a little bit. But I like the track. I guess I never really, to be completely honest, I guess I didn't really do any big brain about how the album ended. I didn't really consider that so much as just listening to it overall and just my overall opinion and stuff. So I guess I didn't really think about it. But I mean, to go back in my head now and think about it, I was like, I think overall, because there's really nothing from front to back, the entire flow of the record is really solid, and so as a closer, I would say that's fair for sure.
Okay, because I was just gonna say, like,
he can be coerced, Kellen. We just discovered.
Well, I never really gave it any thought. I just didn't.
This is why I wanted to say I think Marty's wrong about the placement of hey. You thought I was just going to hear diss on TJ. No, turn it around. It's on you, sir.
Everybody, the Rainbow cover is a black metal song now, apparently.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Wow.
What I wanted to say is I really think if you had put Kill the King at the end of this record, it would have changed the play out of it.
It didn't need to be on the record, though. I think it's killer. I think it's good, but it didn't need to be on the record. It didn't.
I see. For me, it does not serve the same kind of buzzkill as it does for you. And I don't mind it here. And I'm happy it doesn't happen at the end of the record because I think it would change the impact that Fallout has at the end.
Yeah.
So, okay. You can go when you're going to get your chance and you can nitpick and talk about you really need it. Where.
I like the song. I hate being this way, but I like the song. I just don't think it was necessary.
You said it's track number 4. Why do you have to put it here? I'm like,
why?
You don't want to put this song at the end. You do not want to do that.
Don't put it on the record then.
Well,
put it on a single.
It's a success as a cover.
Put it on the Japanese bonus track like all the kids in Japan.
Yeah.
Get it out of America. Okay.
Yeah.
Get it out of America. Put a 25% tariff on that cover.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to give Marty a hard time about him wanting to put Kill the King at the end of this record because that would be a complete failure as a decision. So well done, Liege Lord. Track number 4 worked totally fine. So those are Fallout, Great Wasteland, and as I talked about, the title track here is just phenomenal. So closing thoughts there.
A lot of new people in the chat tonight. Hey, Metal Mark, what's up? A lot of new people. Awesome. So good to see all you folks. Thanks for joining us. Seriously. Okay. I have very few complaints about this, opposed to what Kellen's trying to, paint me as a Judas in this whole thing.
I couldn't really figure out what he was driving at first. I'm like, why?
It was just a setup, TJ. It was just
right. Once I got it, I figured it out.
Pick on TJ time.
No, not at all. I didn't. It wasn't. I wasn't quite sure because a lot of times what did you think of the way the album closed? It's like sometimes it comes up, sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on what we're doing. And you're kind of like, all of a sudden, like, well, what do you? I'm like, I never really thought about it this time. I thought it was, okay. And then when you come at Marty, I'm like, see, I see what you're selling. And now it makes perfect sense. And I agree with Kellen.
Whatever.
So as we've said in the past, and as Explosive Action likes to say, fuck you, Marty.
Well, right here. If Halloween covered Kill the King, Marty would love it. You know what? Yes. I would love it, but they would have had the sense to put it as a bonus track.
Would they?
On a covers album. I mean, they wouldn't litter up the record with. Have they ever done that? They have not ever done that. They have never done that.
They have a record with the words "Pink Bubble" in a title. They would have done.
Oh, the album is so good. Good.
I'm sure they're gonna put a Beatles cover on their next record, and you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
Oh no. But for me, I have very few complaints. If I had to pick a least favorite song on here, which it isn't a least favorite, Feel the Blade. Good riffing, but more of a subdued tempo, and it has a sleazy crunch. There's a sleazy feel to it. Like TJ said, has kind of an 80s thing going on, which, not a bad thing at all. Really, the song is still good. Fear Itself, lead off track, thrash feel to it, especially during the opening moments of the song. Really good energy and moments of complex guitar work that carries over throughout the whole album. Yeah, Eye of the Storm. I mean, there isn't a bad song on here. You know, the speed doesn't hit until the midway point of the song. Riffing overall style a bit, catchy chorus, gang yells, but with emotion behind it, especially in Joseph's performance. Master Control's probably a favorite. I love the melodic gang yells and how Joseph interacts with them. It's just kind of a cool chorus, kind of a fist pumper, good song. Kill the King, great cover, they nail it. I don't like the placement. Seems unnecessary. I think my favorite song on the album is Soldier's Fortune. They end side one with a well-sculpted banger. A lot of flair in the songwriting. God, the guitar solo, they put the accents in just the right spot. Bruce Dickinson thing we already talked about. Feel the Blade. Suspicion, really good song. But it feels a lot like a deep cut on the album. Not saying that's a bad thing. There's like a really atypical melodic guitar run during the chorus. It changes the feel of the song. It really kind of makes the chorus stand out even more. It's a bit buried in the mix, a little bit murky because of the reverb, but God, the feel alone. It's cool.
The chorus is the strong part of that song.
Definitely a strong part. And Fallout. I wrote, did we end on a high note? Indeed. Starts off quiet, and then a killer lead line comes in. The rest of the track unfolds with epic quality, with airy riffing before crunching verse riffs come in. You know, they go out on an energetic song full of interesting dynamics. These guys, like I said, these guys have a formula. They play with it, but the dynamics, they go all out, and then they take it down, make it softer, and then bring it back. They just are really good at doing it, and it kind of keeps you flowing along with the album. The album feels short. It does. You know, I know what you're saying, Logan, but yeah, I sing along with the damn rainbow cover. If it was gone, I think the album would still be fine. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. The cover isn't bad. It doesn't torpedo the record. It doesn't add but it doesn't add anything to it. If it wasn't there, you wouldn't really miss it, is what I'm saying. The album stands on its own without the cover, is all I'm saying. But yeah, Judgment, final thoughts. Kellen.
Okay. Well, maybe I was a little bit too harsh.
Whatever. I can take it. I can take it. I can dish it out and take it.
Yeah. This is a phenomenal record. Super excited we got a chance to cover it this past week, and I can check off a long sort of album that sat on my list for far too long. So I highly recommend this record. I think it's whatever genre you want to throw it in. I do think it's an American classic from the 1980s that everyone should get a chance to listen to. Yeah, can't say enough good things about it. Killer record.
Logan.
Yeah, I mean, one specific genre in general that I've just enjoyed discovering more and more of because of this album club has been just killer 80s metal across the board. Like, you know, when you get into metal initially and you're, you know, starting in like 2010, for example, you're thinking like new wave of British heavy metal, Bay Area thrash, Teutonic German thrash, you know, maybe some Canadian stuff, but there's so many different scenes out there. Like the 1980s was such a impressive, you know, decade with so many great albums that just seamlessly fit into the metal DNA that I kind of have. And yeah, I mean, Omen's Warning of Danger was like a top album for me last year. Cloven Hoof's Dominator was up there.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Heavy
Marty.
Metallurgy bump.
Thank you. Yeah. And then even though it wasn't from the 80s, Crescent Shield, that one that you guys covered, was up there too.
That band's great.
Yeah. So just like there's so many just great like hidden heavy metal gems, and this is one of them. Yeah. That I don't know how much longer I would have gone. I probably would have just kept not spinning it if not for this. So I, you know, appreciate the chance to dive in and realize that this is indeed a certified classic from this era, and it hits in a lot of unique lanes. And for me, I'm personally using it as a, like, as I said, a flagpole for what starts like US power metal, along with that Digital Dictator from Vicious Rumors, and a couple other key U.S. bands. But I think it's an important. It seems like a underappreciated but still somehow important album from the late '80s in the underground. I mean, it was on Metal Blade, for crying out loud. So
yeah,
that had to have meant something. And yeah, I definitely want to track this down. I think it's propelled mostly the vocal performance and the guitar performance, and then just the overall songwriting. It's like the killer trifecta. I'm sold. This is something that I want for just remembering, how unique the 1980s were for heavy metal in general. So for me, this is an 8.5 out of 10 and something I want to get into the collection. Another thing. Thanks, guys.
DJ.
Yeah, definitely 8.5. I'm sometimes I have a hell of a time connecting with these records that were out when we were kids, and it bums me out because there's certain ones that I wish that I'll get in. I knew about and didn't listen to back in the day because the way my listening habits were and stuff. And I come to them now, and I can't always connect with them. But even in the face of my evolving taste with things, this one lives in a place with a style that I have definitely reconnected with or connected with as a middle-aged fat man, and this is a great record. I think I really enjoyed it, really connected with it. I definitely will pick this up. The more I think about it, it's like, yeah, I would definitely like to have this. It's a gem, it just even for being so late in the era. I think, the fact that they never came back with anything, it speaks to things were changing, rapidly, excessively. And these bands, the shit or get off the pot time, with stylistically and creatively. And, so, another one that kind of fell by the wayside. But be that as it may, this is definitely a gem. And I would recommend this, 101 starter pack, early 80s to anybody. So, right there.
All right, Jim.
Sometimes I want to listen to a metal record and just feel happy. You know what I mean? And that's not always the case. Sometimes I want to be introspective, like listening to Hypnagogia by, Evoken, or I want to be like, deathed out and, listen to fucking, any good death metal album, really, or feel cold, listen to some black metal. But sometimes I just want to be happy. And this album just makes me happy, man. I put it on. I just feel like metal joy. And, that's a very unique feeling for me in my listening habits at all. And this is one of those albums that it really puts a smile on my face every time I spin it. And so, yeah, it's definitely a 9 out of 10 for me. It's a crime that I don't own it physical yet, but I'm going to remedy that, and looking forward to more happy spins in the future. So,
right on. Everybody go. Is it just me? All right. Yeah. This put Liege Lord back on the map. I've seen people in the VC show this a bunch, and always was curious, but never curious enough to pull the trigger. So again, the Metallurgy bump helped me out on this one too. And it made me revisit a record I haven't touched since I picked it up from the radio station shit forever ago. It's been a long time, but, yeah, to me, this is a 8.5, 9 record, 9.0 record for me. And it's one that'll enter my collection eventually. I'm probably on a bit of a buying freeze again, which never bodes well, because whenever I fall off the wagon again, it's bad. So maybe in my next relapse, I will pick this one up. But it's been a lot of fun to listen to. It's there's no burden at all in listening to it. Like Jim said, it's metal joy. It just puts me back in the time that I wish that I mean, I was listening to stuff like this in the 80s, and I was listening to thrash, and I was listening to death metal. I was starting to go in, all the directions, but this would have been a repeat spinner. It'd be one that now, if I had back then, I would know all the words to, type of thing. And yeah, it was really cool to be made familiar with it and realize that I need it. And it's cool. Alan mentioned early on in the chat that it's been recently reissued, so it shouldn't be hard to find. So yeah, that's it. And thanks for checking us out on the Liege Lord. And guess what? TJ's picking for next week. Good pick, Kellen. Good pick.
Definitely. So
now it's time for it all to be ruined.
Yeah. Brace yourself for disappointment. So I have been hemming and hawing about this. So initially I said to myself, let's do another verses. We haven't done a verses since I've been back. And I said,
I actually have a verses on deck too, but I don't know when to pull the trigger on it.
And so I thought about it. I was like, let's do a verses. And so I thought, let's do Lunar Chamber and Gorguts. And then I thought, no, I'm not doing that.
Good.
We're not gonna do that.
That's a lot of listening. That's a lot of listening.
Damn it, TJ. Why would you tease me like that?
It's 50 minutes. It's 50 minutes. It's two EPs, man.
Oh, yeah,
it's
yeah,
two
yeah.
EPs.
Oh, that's not bad. That's bad.
Pleiades Dust and Slumbering something or other.
Well, we're not doing that anyway. So
no, we're not. No, see. So we're not going there. We're not going to do it. Not this time. Maybe another time. Maybe. So instead, I thought, should we go with some Greek? Should we go with some American? I said, no. You know what we're going to do? Marty and I have talked about this, and I know he's threatened. And you know what? It's time. Here it is. There it is.
Yes.
There it is. By fire and sword.
That's all rules.
Glory. There it is.
Sweet. Let me write it in the.
All right.
Oh God, it's so catchy. This is going to be a very polarizing album.
Do we piss Jim off? Tune in next week to find out.
First thing out of his mouth, where's the bass? Before we get to TJ's infinite words of wisdom at the end here, I will say show notes on Friday night. We've got the Forge Master Metal guys coming by, Brandon and Benjamin. We're going to be talking about favorite albums from 2015, 10 years ago. So that'll be fun to get those guys on, and been meaning to do so for a while. And Monday, Kellen and Alan have done a joint review on the new Havakruunu album from Finland, and Alan and Logan have also done a review on the new Christian Mistress. So Havakruunu hits first, and we'll see when the Christian Mistress drops. But that'll be happening on Monday. And does anybody have anything that they would like to add to any promotion stuff coming up that you want to talk about? Jim, you're biting your lip. Nothing yet? Okay.
Nothing yet. Nothing yet.
Nothing on the channels? Okay. Again, check out Celtic Frosty's channel. I am going to, when this is all done, add his link to his channel in the description. Go subscribe. It's good to see members of the community branching out and doing their own thing. It's very cool. Right. And that's it. TJ, did you have anything you wanted to take us out with?
Quote of the week. Remember, the more you weigh, the harder you are to kidnap. So eat cake.
For safety.
Good night. Good night.
Cheers, everyone. End stream. Is that how you do this? Yes.